The year is 2010, and Kirby's Epic Yarn was just released for the Nintendo Wii. Being the first original Kirby game on the Nintendo Wii, you would expect it to be a game that HAL Laboratories themselves made. But HAL Laboratories actually had nothing to do with the development of this game. They were only supervising what the dev team did to make sure they were treating Kirby correctly. This game was developed by Good Feel Studios, giving their second shake at creating a game for a Nintendo property, the other one being Wario Land Shake It. When this game started development, it was called Fluff of Yarn, a game that took place in a yarn world where you took control of protagonist Prince Fluff. As development of this game continued, Nintendo, as they do, decided that this would make for a great Kirby game, adding it to the list of games that started development as original properties and then turned into Kirby later. What's interesting is that Prince Fluff stayed in the game, being the character that Player 2 plays as. Will this join the ranks of bad spin-offs, or will this be a diamond in the rough? Let's find out. One day, Kirby was walking through Dreamland and he found what looked like a Maxim tomato. Kirby goes to eat it, only to realize that it was a sorcerer named Yin Yarn's magical Metamato. For eating it, Yin Yarn used his magic sock to suck Kirby in and teleport him to Patchland, turning him into Yarn. Kirby ends up meeting with Prince Fluff, the Prince of Patchland, and he tells Kirby that Yin Yarn split up Patchland into different pieces and he was trying to find the magic yarn in order to stitch it back together. Kirby decides to help Prince Fluff and find a way back to Dreamland. Meanwhile, Yin Yarn is causing all kind of shenanigans all throughout Dreamland, turning everything, including King Dedede and Meta Knight, into Yarn to fight against Kirby and Prince Fluff. After their fight with Meta Knight tells them that Yin Yarn has turned all of Dreamland into Yarn and is taking control. At that moment, since Kirby and Prince Fluff finished stitching together Patchland, they have access to Prince Fluff's magic sock, which can send Kirby back to Dreamland. After Kirby and Prince Fluff defeat Yin Yarn, which happens to be apparently the Sticks and not the Yarn guy, Prince Fluff returns to Patchland and Kirby stays in Dreamland. The last we see of him, he is cuddling up to the magic sock as a memory of the adventure he went on, even if it does stink a little. The story is very simple, yet very effective. I always look forward to seeing the antics Yin Yarn was on in Dreamland, taking over Castle Dedede and besting Meta Knight. Yin Yarn was a fun villain to watch and is probably the best Kirby villain in a long time. I'm glad to see we're getting a Kirby villain that isn't just delegated to the final boss position with nothing else to show for it. Plus, for a Kirby spin-off, this may be the best story yet. The narrator of the game gave off the vibes of having a bedtime story read to you, and it honestly fits the very cozy nature the entire game has. Though it is simple, I liked it a lot. With all of that in mind, Kirby's Epic Yarn story gets my rating of an A. This game is half of your standard Kirby fare. You run and jump, much like any typical platformer, but there is no eating or copying to be seen. In its place, you have a yarn attack that can either unravel enemies completely or turn them into a projectile to launch at blocks or other enemies. Much like any other platformer, the goal of each level is to get to the end of the stage. Along the way, there are collectible treasures, beads, and power-ups you can get. The power-ups in the game, such as the tank, snowboard, dolphin, car, or starship, give Kirby a new way to play the game, whether it's shooting down enemies, jumping in between bodies of water, or turning Kirby into a bullet hell game. Honestly, there really isn't a lot to say about the game. The game's just plain fun. Kirby's Epic Yarn is the perfect example of a game that doesn't need to be too complicated to be very good. With that in mind, Kirby's Epic Yarn's gameplay gets my rating of an A. The presentation of Kirby's Epic Yarn is where the charm of this game truly stems from. Having everything move and act like either cloth or yarn is incredible. One thing I always loved seeing were the little animations that would play when you open up the next level. They're just so fluidly animated and sometimes a visual spectacle. Not only are the visuals outstanding and add to the charm of the game, but what really sells the soft and cozy aesthetic of this game is the music. this is genuinely not just one of my favorite Kirby soundtracks in the franchise, it's one of my favorite video game soundtracks in general. Everything being played with soft pianos and strings makes this game just feel cozy. Everything about this game makes me want to snuggle up in a warm blanket with some hot chocolate, Wii remote in hand, and a friend right next to me. It sounds very Christmassy, but honestly, that's the vibe the game gives off. Just pure, unadulterated joy, and the presentation of the game is what sells it. With all of that in mind, Kirby's Epic Yarn's presentation gets my rating of an A+. To complete Kirby's Epic Yarn, you must do the following. First, you must obtain a medal in every stage in the game, which you get by obtaining a certain number of beads within that stage. Getting a gold medal doesn't count any more or less towards completion than getting a bronze medal, but I ended up getting all of the gold medals anyway. Second, you must find all 3 treasures in every level of the game. Third, you must buy all pieces of furniture and all pieces of fabric from the shops in Quilty Square. Lastly, you must set up all of the apartments in the Quilty Square apartment complex and complete all of the challenges from each tenant. Doing all of this rewards you with 100% completion and nothing else. Yeah, unfortunately there's no real completion bonus for this game, other than being able to have every option available to decorate Kirby's room, which is the one thing in the game that isn't necessary to do. Does that mean I wouldn't recommend completing Kirby's Epic Yarn? For once, I'm right in the middle. Completing the game isn't that hard. Getting the beads is really easy, finding all 3 treasures in each level is a breeze if you just take the time to explore a little, and you will definitely have enough beads by the end of the game to buy out the furniture and fabric shop. And the challenges you must do for the tenants aren't really that hard at all, there's just a lot of them. If you really like this game, I'd say go ahead and complete it. If you're just here for the story, you aren't missing much from not completing the game. Complete it if you wanna. Kirby's Epic Yarn is hands down the best Kirby spin-off. With a story that is simple yet effective, not to mention the great villain who actually plays a part in the story, gameplay that feels very much like Kirby with a few little differences to keep it fresh, and presentation that goes above and beyond expectations, I can safely say that Kirby's Epic Yarn is one Kirby spin-off that I can't get enough of. Kirby's Pinball Land? Yucky. Kirby's Canvas Curse? Frustrating. Kirby's Dream Course? Too long. Kirby's Epic Yarn? That's the GOAT. With all of that in mind, Kirby's Epic Yarn gets my overall rating of an A. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys enjoy the new format of the retrospectives. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell. All the social media are in the description below, so check them out as well. We also got merch in the description. Next week, we'll be looking at the next Kirby game in the lineup, Kirby's Mass Attack. But if you're too impatient to wait a week, you can become a channel member and watch it right now. I'm Bottles, and I bid you, my well-esteemed guests, adieu.